step up, step up. Who among you is not ready for a tale of high adventure, mythical creatures, and the most amazing man you'll ever meet? Yes, it is I, Dr. Elphias Mecurio, inviting you to step up, mesdames and messieurs, my dominant herren, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Dr. Mercurio's Mythical Marvels and Traveling Menagerie.
Come in. Yes, Florence. I trust we are on schedule and we will arrive before sundown.
Should be there shortly, sir.
Jolly good. Now, if there's nothing else, I will meet you on deck as soon as I plot our course to the Himalayas.
Well, there is one other thing.
I thought as much. Out with it, then.
My deepest apologies, Dr. Mecurio, if I'm speaking above my station, but I couldn't help but overhear you talking with that evil git about the dragon heart. Is it true? Does our wee little ping know the location? He also mentioned that there are problems with your mechanical heart.
My word, Florence. 60 feet in the air with the sound of engines running. For a woman with such tiny ears, you have acute hearing.
You like them? I bought them at the bazaar. But enough about my jewelry. It's true, isn't it? Your heart, I mean.
Yes, it is true. The surgeon who constructed the heart is, of course, long dead. And as there is no one in the 13 dimensions that can repair it, I have 8 months, maybe a year before the springs rust away. As for the dragon's heart, well, like all dragons, it's the stuff of myth and legends. So who's to say? I can tell you this, though. If all nefarious visitors' interest is any indication, then there might be something to the tales.
And is it true what he said about Little Ping? That you can replace your failing ticker with Little Ping Ping's heart?
Yes, I'm afraid that is true as well. Actually, any of the dragon's hearts would work. Replace a human heart with a dragon's and, well, you'll live the life expectancy of said dragon. Ping's life expectancy is the longest, so she would be the obvious choice.
But you're not actually going to kill wee Little Ping, are you?
Florence. It's no doubt that Shang fellow coming to take the dragon. Man the deck gun, Florence, and I'll grab the rifles. Miss Primrose, take this pistol and prepare to repel all porters and guard that dragon with your life.
Doctor!
Florence, don't just stand there. Get on that cannon and blow them from the sky.
Doctor!
Miss Primrose, this is no time to panic.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. We are being shot at by what looks like Sadie's mother.
That's ridiculous. Evangeline never shoots anyone until after sunset.
Take the spyglass and look for yourself.
Give me that. That's not Evangeline. She's a much better shot. That appears to be a small albino ape in a pith helmet with a blunderbuss. Yes, it's true. The little ape's a little less hairier and not half the marksman Evangeline is. Oh, look, there's Evangeline and our dear Sadie running out of the house now.
Peering over the side of the ship, I saw that indeed Sadie and her mother were frantically running over to disarm the beast. But it did little good as the ape clubbed Sadie with one long arm. Our Sadie is one tough cookie, though, as she rushed the little ape and knocked it to the ground as her mother dropped a net over it and tossed the feisty monkey over her shoulder and waved for us to land in the clearing.
Is the shooting over? Is it safe?
Yes, Percy, and just where were you when the ship was under attack?
I was down in the hold guarding Precious.
From the amount of dung on your shirt, I would say you were hiding underneath her.
Ha ha, very funny, dear sister. But I have you know I was strategically placed.
As what, a throw rug?
Percy, no one here questions your bravery.
Thank you, sir.
Because we all know that you have none. Now clean yourself up and get the dragon stowed away. We need to find the Yeti first straight away. Thanks to our new friend Shang, we'll need to speed up our timetable a bit. Can't have him mucking up our plans.
Begging your pardon, sir, but even if Sadie's mum still has the fur, what makes you think she'll let you have it? The McMiggins clan and the Mercurios have never been what you'd call best of friends. Are you sure she's still not going to be miffed about Sadie forsaking her studies to take up with the likes of us?
I'm sure Sadie has told her how much happier she's been since coming aboard the moon. As for the feud, her problems were with my father and my grandfather. Surely she understands I had nothing to do with any of that nonsense.
If you say so, sir.
As I readied the mooring lines for landing, I remembered what I read in the Encyclopedia Mercurium about Sadie's mum. The McMiggins clan were amongst the original 5 families of Middleof. The Mercurios and the McMigginses were in business together for years, until the doctor's grandfather, Millard Mecurio, who was set to marry Evangeline, left her standing at the altar. He claimed that she was a bit of a pampered princess and would never be able to accompany him on his many expeditions into the wild. This so incensed her that she set out to become the Dimension's top adventurer and explorer. By the time she was in her late 30s, she had successfully mapped and charted all of Improbable. By her late 60s, she alone was responsible for finding direct routes to 6 of the 13 dimensions. As for the Honourable Millard Mecurio, he was eaten by a Pangean purple panda during a late afternoon tea in the floating mountains. When asked if she had any thoughts about his death, she said, and I quote, "I'm sure the panda found him delicious."
Since you're here, you might as well stay for supper. Mole stew with turnip pie for dessert.
Nothing better than Ma's turnip pie.
No need to be bragging to a Mecurio, dear. They already know we're better than them. Why do you think he snuck you out of university to go traipsing about dimensions on one of his snake oil tours?
In my defense, I do not recall sneaking Sadie out. I offered her a job, and she took me up on it.
Nobody snuck me out of anywhere, Ma.
Might as well have. Mark my words, you're going to regret attaching that gun to your wrist instead of a writing quill.
Too late, Ma. My biggest regret is that I'm not more like you.
Aw, you always know the right thing to say. She must have learned that skill from you, Elphias.
Well, I am notoriously known for it. Now, about my reason for intruding...
You and your motley crew go wash the dragon stink out of you. We'll bargain over dinner. More turnip pie, Elphias.
I believe I could not eat another bite, madam.
Your grandfather never liked my turnip pie either.
And he's dead, so that will teach him the importance of turnips in one's diet. Well then, I'm sure Sadie has already told you about the nature of our visit.
Just like a Mecurio to get right down to business. So be it. According to my wayward child, you're in need of Yeti fur to use in one of your nefarious schemes, the outcome of which will net you the old alchemist's 3rd dragon egg. Does that about cover it?
Nefarious might be a bit harsh, but yes, that's the current state of affairs. So, dear lady, what is your price?
0.
Well then, that's quite generous of you, Evangeline. I really must admit that I expected quite a bartering session, so thank you so much, so very, very much.
I'm afraid you mistook my meaning, Elphias. When I said 0, I meant that it is not for sale. The fur, like your dragon's, is priceless.
You could have told me this before dessert.
That is not to say that it can't be earned. Sadie, go and fetch your cousin.
Everyone, meet my cousin Ollie.
Oh, I don't particularly like monkeys.
Technically, he's an orangutan, so that makes him an ape.
Sadie's cousin is an ape? Well, that explains a lot.
Worried he's after your job, Percy?
I know I will live to regret this, but just what does your furry relative have to do with Yeti fur?
Who is my brother's youngest? He got roped into an expedition to the Heston dimension.
That's the dimension of the apes.
Correct, dear. Now don't interrupt. As you know, the apes have a strict no-human policy. The leader of the expedition chose to make a hasty retreat, destroying it in the process. And what with being covered in ape fur, the portal's energy altered his DNA, and pushed him out on this side in the mess you see him now.
Now all the poor dear can do is mope about and take pot shots at passing dirigibles.
If you would be so kind as to explain, what does this slightly interesting and incredibly unlikely story have to do with me?
We were hoping that if we run him through the Heston portal again, it'll sort out his DNA and set him right.
Again, this is important to me. How?
The Heston portal here on Middleof was destroyed, and the only other way in happens to be located at the bottom of Underrest in the heart of the Yeti Temple. So I thought since you're heading there anyway, you'd make sure he'd make it through the gateway and bring him back safe and sound.
Don't like monkeys.
In return, I'll lend you the Yeti fur to get your precious egg.
Providing we survive, it'll be quite the adventure. And don't worry, Sprocket. As long as you don't try and take his pith helmet, Ollie here can be quite pleasant.
As if to prove that he had manners, Ollie leapt up, ran across the table, scattering full plates of picked-over turnip pie about, and in one smooth motion snatched up Sprocket's hand and kissed it while executing a perfect bow. Sprocket, of course, was unimpressed, as now her hand was covered with monkey drool.
Always the charmer, that one. So, have we struck an accord, Elphias?
May I remind you, Doctor, that we might not have enough room with, 2 dragons and a full crew?
Nonsense, Florence. You can bunk with Sadie as their family.
Actually, Ollie has always preferred to bunk in the crow's nest, if it's all the same to you.
There you have it, Florence. Problem solved.
Not wanting to be a bother, sir. It's just that I'm not particularly fond
Of monkeys, yes. So you've said before on numerous occasions. But, number one, he's an orangutan, which is not considered a monkey. It's in the higher order of primates, so technically it's considered an ape. And B, Ollie is neither. He's just an unfortunate young lad who got his DNA scrambled a bit.
Before Mecurio could continue, Ollie picked something out of his backside and threw it against the wall.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
Hours later, we were underway to the mystical land of Dogmandoo. At first, I was worried that the dragons would try to eat the little ape, but the 3 of them seemed to get along just fine. True to her word, Sprocket tried to keep as much space between her and Ollie as possible, which only made him want to get closer to her. But a carefully thrown monkey wrench, pun intended, to his fuzzy head sent him scurrying up the mast and into the crow's nest. On the last leg of the journey, Mecurio spent most of his time with Percy, fashioning the Yeti fur into a believable disguise. They had just about finished when they ran short of enough fur to cover Percy's face.
Dash it all, Percy, if you weren't so hormonally challenged, we could have just had you grow out some facial hair.
Curse my horrible luck, and I so wanted to possibly be mauled by a Yeti. Damn my smooth baby face. I'll just be going back to my cabin and cry myself to sleep, if that's all right with you, sir.
Hang on a tick. I have an idea so brilliant you can light a room with it. Hang tight, Percy. I will return in a nonce.
Oh, good.
Mecurio returned an hour later with enough white fur to finish the job. He immediately went to work gluing the fur in place, and was just finishing up when the rest of the crew and I came to see the finished result.
Stop your fidgeting, Percy. If you don't get this right, then your chances of surviving this encounter are nil. There. I believe that is perfect.
How do I look?
Like an oversized feather duster.
Like an underfed cat?
Or an advert for a hair tonic.
Ha ha. Very funny. I thought you said there was no substitute for Yeti fur. This facial hair is itchy and it smells funny.
I'm aware of what I said, dear boy, but in such an emergency, you can substitute fur with a similar genetic marking, in this case, a simian.
Before Percy could reply, there was a knock at the door, and Ollie wandered in, his long arms waving over his head. He took one look at Percy's face and screeched in what I assume was laughter. Then he turned and exited the room, and as he was leaving, we all glanced down to see that his backside had been shaved down to the quick. I had to quickly stifle my own laughter as Percy glared at Mecurio with a look of disgust on his furry face.
Could it be helped? It was the only fur he was willing to part with.
Hearing this, Sprocket, Sadie and I made excuses about preparing for landing and quickly left before our sides could split from laughter. Once in the hallway, we could no longer contain ourselves and the laughter flowed. Percy, of course, remained in his cabin, sulking and trying anything to forget that his face smelled like a monkey's bottom for the rest of our journey to Dogmandoo.
Here, boy, catch the rope. Good boy. Now tie it down, yes. Who's a good boy? Here's a biscuit for your troubles. Sprocket?
Yes, Doctor?
You'll need to settle our mooring fees with the Sky Harbor Master. Then, secure for us a blacksmith. And have the Moon's entire lower deck fitted with more paddocks. And since we find ourselves, for the moment anyway, in the black, have the boiler refitted and get the old girl a new gas bag while you're at it.
Goodness, it's like my birthday.
Yes. Well, before you set about baking a cake, we need the Moon repaired and ready to fly in 3 days' time.
I shall do my best, sir. Might I ask what you'll be doing?
Miss Primrose, Sadie, and myself will go into the city and acquire provisions and a shepherd guide.
What about the inane ape?
Oh, I'm sure Percy will continue to mope about in his cabin.
I believe she's referring to Ollie.
Oh, we'll bring him along with us. Just make sure that he leaves that damnable blunderbuss on board. It wouldn't do to have him blasting away at passing airships. And Miss Primrose, it might be wise to bring Ping Ping along. I'm sure we haven't heard the last of Shang, and I would feel better if we keep a close eye on our frosty little beastie. Now, let's get to it, people. We have a new dragon to acquire.
Moments later, we were travelling through the bustling marketplace of Dogmandoo and into the first supply shop we came across. To say we stood out was an understatement. Sadie trying desperately to keep Ollie from eating a basket of brightly coloured carabiners and rolling around in large coils of rope. I had my own hands full trying to keep Ping from snapping at the local cynocephaly, which, as I learned, was the name of the canine humanoids. They had only heard tales of dragons and seemed compelled to come and sniff at her, just to prove to themselves that she was real. This, of course, irritated the little dragon to no end. I couldn't help but think it was more than just the curious throng that had her on edge. Ever since being in proximity to the mysterious Shang, she seemed to be wary of anything out of the ordinary. Then there was Mecurio, who evidently spoke fluent Dogonese, babbling on in a series of barks, whimpers, and broken English to purchase everything we needed for the adventure at 2/3 of the cost, and a promise of 3 cases of the Red Dragon tonic. Sadie and I quickly changed clothing, more suited to the cold climate, while the doctor arranged to have the rest of our stores delivered to the Moon. Back in the thoroughfare, we pondered whether or not to try some of the local cuisine when, from out of the blue, a small and extremely frantic-looking Dogonese citizen came literally crashing into us, knocking the lot of us head over tea kettle. Before we could even get to our feet, we were joined by 2 other Dogonese, who I assume were the local authorities. They grabbed the cynocephaly by the scruff of his fur and held him in the air. The largest of the officers pulled what appeared to be a rolled-up newspaper from a sheath in his belt and was about to strike the trembling fugitive when the doctor stepped between them.
Excuse me, begging your pardon, sir, but may I be so bold as to inquire what is going bark on here? What is this?
No need to beg, fine sir. He is not the good boy. He has no tags, so he's stray.
I is good boy, not stray. I is Buddy. I is new, so I have no tags. Buddy is good boy, who comes to city to seek adventure and treats.
You is not the good boy. You is under arrest for running away when caught and stealing treats.
The 3 cynocephaly began yipping and growling at each other. Buddy protested his innocence, but the 2 police dogs were having none of it. In all of Dogonese culture, there is no greater crime than the stealing of treats. I was afraid that the little fellow was on his way to the pound when Mecurio shouted,
Sit!
in his most commanding voice. Instantly, the 3 dogmen stopped their argument and sat looking at the doctor to see what would come next.
So, as I understand it, growl, growl, bark, bark, he is looking for adventure and treats, growl, growl, bark, 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 treats. I myself have an adventure to go on, and marvelous treats, bark, bark, bark. What if, bark, I hire, bark, 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 Buddy, was it? What if I hire Buddy, bark, bark, growl, and pay for the cost of the alleged missing treat, bark, bark, growl, whimper?
You is very kind, good sir, but rules are rules. Nothing can save treat stealer from bound.
Oh, really? What about this stick?
Quick as a wink, Mecurio produced a stick and waves it over the excited Dogonese men. Even Buddy has forgotten his predicament and strains to get the coveted stick.
Oh, yes, good sir. I do want stick. We will like stick, very much so.
Well then, there you go, my good boys. Go, fetch the stick.
And with a hard heave-ho, Mecurio tosses the stick into the back of a fast-moving steam carriage. The 2 officers light out after it, but before Buddy can give chase as well, the doctor grabs him by the collar.
So, probably best that you come with us, growl, growl, whimper, my fuzzy friend. Before bark, 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 those 2 realize their bark, bark, bark mistake.
Buddy cocked his head to the side, giving Mecurio a quizzical look. Suddenly, as if a light bulb had been switched on in his head, he began to jump about, wagging his thin tail vigorously.
Oh! Ho! You was the smart boy. Oh! You tricked with the stick. You was the good smart boy. Buddy owes you life debt. Smart boy can be Buddy's master.
Excellent. Let's be on our...
You see, Buddy is the good boy. Can help new master. Can guard. Can hunt. Can scare off ugly hairy baby.
Buddy jumped in front of Ollie and began to yip furiously. The little ape shot into Sadie's arms, shaking his hairy knuckles at the agitated cynocephaly. Grabbing Buddy by the collar, he knelt down and scratched between his pointy ears.
Buddy, I need you to focus for a moment. Can you do that? Bark, bark, whimper, question mark?
Yes.
We would like to go walkies to Underest. Can you take us walkies to Underest, bark, bark, whimper, whimper?
Yes.
Very good. You is the good boy. Now, sit. Sadie, Miss Primrose, make haste to the moon and get ready to depart as soon as we return. Disguise Percy as best you can. The Dogonese haven't seen a Yeti, even a poor imitation of one, in quite some time, so we don't want to attract any undue attentions. I need to secure tags for our shepherd guide here.
At the sound of this, Buddy started jumping about, barking happily.
I is to be adventuresome shepherd guide. I will have tags, and go walkies with good master, and ugly hairy baby, and fuzzy growling ice snake.
He suddenly stopped and leaned hard into Mercurio's side, looking up at him with the most soulful gaze.
And treats.
Yes, you get us to Undress and back safely, and I will give you many bark, 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 whimper, bark, bark, growl treats.
You are my master, and I love you.
Dr. Mecurio's Mythical Marvels and Traveling Menageries stars the voices of Annamarie Macleod, Claire Whitaker, Star Haggen Esquerra, Ray Esquerra, and Ricki Vincent as Dr. Mecurio. To learn more how you can have dragons at your next party or event, please contact Dr. Mecurio at Dr. Mecurio page at thepuppetryinstitute.org.